to see everybody here today. God's given us a beautiful weekend and a beautiful day. He's given us beautiful people. We're glad that you're here. We're going to start out this morning with a song, 10,000 Reasons. If I'm at the end of it, don't blame Jennifer. It's all on me, okay? They'll be on the screens up there. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name, sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship Your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name, sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship Your holy name. Rich in love and Your slow to anger, Your name is great and Your heart is kind. For all Your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name, sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship Your holy name. Let's all stand. We can't be singing the last verse. I'm already messing with the lines, but that's okay. And on that day when my strength is failing, the end draws near, and my time has come, still my soul will sing Your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name, sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship Your holy name. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name, sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship Your holy name. Worship God's name today. Praise the Lord. I see a lot of things going on in our nation today. And you know what? I'm so glad that God says I never change. I never change. I'm always the same. The way God was in the beginning, He is today. And we can always count on that. I want you to think about that this morning. Brother Jerry, would you come up and take us a little more in purpose?
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we do want to thank you for this day you've given us, a beautiful day that we're able to rise up and come to your house today to worship you and praise you. We want to thank you for the blessings. Lord, this country is going through a lot right now with the pandemic, violence in the streets. But we just pray that they'll turn back to you, because that's where it all starts at with you. If we don't get back to you, Father, we'll never be right. Sin in the country, because that's where we're at today. Be with us today as a congregation. Be with the ones that's not with us today. Some are traveling. Be with them. We can say passage. They're just not able to get out or don't want to get out yet, Father. We just pray that you'll be with them and bless them also. Touch us all today. Be with the pastors and prayers for their message. It'll touch our hearts. Help us draw closer to you, better love you and serve you. And we praise you for it all. In Christ's name we ask. Amen.
Well, good morning. I have to take my mask off, because if I don't, I'm going to start thinking I'm a doctor. And nobody wants me to do that. Trust me, it's a bad idea. I do want to remind everybody, please remember there's an announcement in just a moment about what we're going to be doing Thursday here at the church. So please come be part of that as that announcement will be taking place. I want to remind everybody too, if you did not make it to our church business meeting Wednesday night, we are in the process of handing out last Wednesday night new constitution for our church. So if you're a member of our church, guys, I'm encouraging everybody to be part of that decision, be part of who you are, be part of who our church is. And then I've been pastoring for a long time, and I hear a lot of people say, well, very few people make decisions for the church. That's because very few people show up. So I want to encourage everybody, show up, be part of that. We're going to be looking over, we're actually going to be looking over that for the next 4 weeks on Wednesday evenings after prayer time. So please come on out to that if you want a copy of it. I do have a few of those still in my office. So again, I say welcome this morning. And I believe Bill has an announcement for us about what we're going to be doing on Thursday.
Good morning. Thursday morning, we're going to be meeting here about 9 o'clock. We're going to do a thin blue drive-through for the cops. We're going to be preparing them a lunch. So if I could, I need a couple people to help on the grill. I need a couple people, more than a couple, to help put everything together. Because there's about 300 meals that we have prepared for the cops to come through, drive to our parking lot, pick up a lunch and leave. And then the other thing is, if you want to give a donation, you can give it to Jennifer or Rebecca or Doug or me. But most of this money is coming out of our missions or outreach. But if you feel like you want to help Thursday, please come out and help. It's going to be from 11 to 2. And also, if you're on Facebook, if you will go on our Facebook, like this post, and if you know an officer, reach out to them and as many as their friends. Because right now they're getting a bad rap, and we need to be a light in our community and reach out to them. Thank you.
Praise the Lord. Let's all get a hymnal. We got one in our hymnal this morning, page 329, grace that is greater than all our sin. Isn't that true? What God does for us. 329, please. have something ready? And he said, well, I'll just play the piano. So I said, okay, and I didn't fix anything. I don't see him this morning, so something must have happened to him. So, anybody got a special song you'd like to jump up and sing real quick? Well, let's do that, okay? But I didn't bring one. I was going to, but he said he played. So, Brother Doug, you just get some extra time today. How's that?
I don't do any singing either, so. I just do want to remind everybody, as Bill was just saying, Thursday is going to be a great opportunity for us to be able to witness to our first responders. I was over here at the Speedway gas station here at at Southport Road in Madison, and I went over to. There was an officer at a gas pump, and I went up and talked to her, and she said, "Oh yeah, we've already heard about it." So that is a good thing. I'd like for you to take your Bibles, please, and turn with me all the way. Go back to the New Testament to 2 Timothy chapter 3, if you would, please. I want you to see here as Paul writes. Now remember, Paul. It's very important that as you read your Bible, as we look at the scriptures, that we put it into context of what is being said. It's very, very dangerous to take scripture sometimes and use it the way some people do. So what I want us to do here this morning is I want to give us we're going to get a little bit of a background of what's happening so that we can then put it into context as we take it, hopefully, to apply it to our lives, okay? So in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 3, I'm going to read this to you. And I'm going to read to you two different versions. I'm going to read to you first the New King James Version, and I'm going to read to you the King James Version. Listen to what they say. It says, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good. That was the New King James, and the King James says this, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontent, fierce, despisers of those that are good. And what I want you to do is, I'm going to use the phrase that is used in the King James here this morning with you, without natural affection. Okay? Without natural affection. Now, I told you I want to share with you, it's important that we understand when the scriptures, as we read them, that we understand what they're truly all about. Paul is writing here his second letter to Timothy, who is a young pastor. How many of you have been ever young at your job? Right? Okay, every one of us at one point in your life, because not one of us was born an adult, right? Not one of us was born with the experience that you might have in life. So when you go through life, you have to learn things, you have to be encouraged, you have to be reminded of various things of how to live and how to serve. And so Paul is writing this letter to Timothy. He's writing this second letter to him actually here to remind him of just the whole idea of what the church is about. In fact, here in chapter 3, he's talking about and wanting you and I to understand something about perilous times. Would you agree that we've got some perilous times out there? We'll find out in just a moment, though, that it's very interesting. Paul also writes to him in 2 Timothy chapter 2 what the purpose of the church is. So he is going through, and he's wanting Timothy to understand the whole concept of the church, the idea of understanding what his responsibilities are. But here in chapter 3, I want to focus on verse 3 because, again, I'm going to focus on that phrase, without natural affection. How many of you have ever paid attention to a firehouse that says, this is a safe place? That's the big sticker on there, okay? That falls under without natural affection, okay? We'll get to that in just a moment, okay? So I want you to see something here as Paul is writing here. What is he emphasizing? He is emphasizing two very, very important things to Timothy. He's emphasizing two very important things to you and to me. And those things are this, that we need to understand is that Paul is saying to Timothy, knowledge and responsibility. Now, we're lacking both of those in our culture today. Did you know that? We have a lot of ignorant people running around our culture today who choose to be simply because they just want to. It's interesting how the mob mentality rules. You guys ever study that in school, the mob mentality? Okay? The whole idea that is sometimes you might not do something that took place in that mob, but since you were part of it, you did it to fit in or whatever it might have been. And it's interesting how many people across our country, they're trying to tell you and I what our knowledge should be and should not be. And it's interesting as they tear down statues and they say the statues of a slave owner, turns out it was not. It was a person who fought to free the slaves. It was completely the opposite. We were finding this over and over and over again culturally. We're finding this over and over again in our churches. That knowledge is missing within our churches. It's missing within your ability, my ability. It's missing in our churches of understanding what the scriptures truly say. How about the second one Paul talks about here, though, is responsibility. Have you ever heard the phrase, take responsibility? Take responsibility. Do we do that today culturally? No. In fact, we do the opposite. We say, blame somebody else. Okay? So Paul is here, he's reminding us, hey, you know what? We have to have knowledge as Christians. We have to take responsibility as Christians. And our world needs to start taking knowledge, and it needs to starting to take responsibility for what it is doing. And quit blaming Christians, quit blaming the police, quit blaming other people. Take responsibility for what you are doing. And we're so scared to do that any longer. At church, you and I, we have to take responsibility for what God has given us. We must take that knowledge for what it is that He is getting out there. You see, many people are ignorant, and they're truly choosing to do so for whatever reason. But what about this whole idea of this word? What is the word knowledge? How do you define it? When we use it a lot, right? I mean, wait, don't you have any knowledge about anything? But the reality is the word knowledge in the Greek literally means a perception, a skill, discernment, understanding, and wisdom. Okay? I'll read that to you one more time. Perception, skill, discernment, understanding, and wisdom. Now, that's a far cry to what a lot of our society wants to be, what a lot of people who claim to be Christians are doing. Guys, I've seen a lot of posts on Facebook there, people quoting the scriptures, and that's not found in my Bible, some of the things I'm reading people saying. So we need to understand here that we have to have this discernment that is there. What about responsibility? Okay? What about responsibility? Responsibility is a duty. Okay? It is a duty. It is our job to deal with whatever is in front of us. Okay? We must take responsibility for this. So Paul is writing here to Timothy saying, Timothy, make sure you understand church. Let us make sure we understand knowledge. Church, let us make sure we understand responsibility. So as he writes this to him, that phrase, without natural affection, just truly kept driving home to me and thinking about this. So as we think about the last days, we think about, people use that phrase, all the time. We use the phrase all the time, but the reality is we have been living in the last days since Jesus Christ, okay? Hebrews chapter 1, verses 1 and 2 flat out tell us, and it's written, God has in these last days. So we're not living in this is not a new thing that's taking place in the United States and around our world. It's been happening since Jesus Christ left. We've been living in the last days. The Bible literally tells us this. So as Christians, we need to take knowledge. We need to respond to when things are thrown at us in a way out of knowledge of knowing the scriptures, understanding what they are about, and then taking responsibility for the Christian. Don't you ever apologize for being a Christian. Ever. I heard it the other day on the radio. I'd heard of this person before, and I'd never actually listened to this person before, but his name, the name of the thing was Mad Dog Sports. Some of you might have heard that before. I've heard it, but I've never actually listened to it before. And he was on and he was talking, and what he said was this, he said, I cannot apologize for what happened 200 years ago. You guys like this? Yes, we cannot either, okay? So quit trying to, all right? Quit trying to. All we can do is worry about the here and now. And we need to understand to take responsibility for the here and now, not for what happened 200 years ago or even 15 years ago. Because we don't live there anymore, and we'll never live there again. Did things happen in the past that were ugly? Absolutely. Things happened in the past that were wrong? You better believe it. But we live in the here and now, and as Christians, we need to make sure we understand that we have knowledge of the scriptures, knowledge of how it can change our life, knowledge how it will change other people's lives, and making sure that we take that responsibility in our life seriously. We as Christians, we as a church, everything that we do, we have to make sure that we do so based upon the knowledge, based upon the skill, based upon the discernment, based upon the understanding, based upon the wisdom found in the Bible. Not what some man thinks it should be, but what is it that's found in the Bible. Woke up this morning, and I didn't necessarily hear of any more riots taking place across our country, but boy, a lot of people got shot. A lot of people got killed. A lot of people then, and people are literally, we have just gone crazy. We see a culture out there that is rioting, that's killing, they're lying, they're cheating, is filled with lawlessness. And guys, it's very interesting is that the mayor of New York City said those types of behaviors can continue, but other ones cannot. Okay? Guys, when a leader of our country of a city is perpetrating lawlessness, that city's in trouble. And we need to make sure we understand as Christians what this passage, how does that relate to what I'm getting at without natural affection? It's very much all relates. We need to understand that phrase of unloving, or in the New King James, and without natural affection. Would you agree with me that the family in America is nothing like it was 50 years ago? It's nothing like it was 50. Across cultural divides, it's nothing like it used to be here. Well, Paul writes some things here. He wants us to understand some things that we need to understand. How is it that we as Christians, we have this infiltration of ungodliness that is around us? We have this infiltration of ungodliness that wants to come in and sweep the church. Guys, do you guys realize people actually storm the church on the East Coast during their services? Okay? And that is unloving, and that is truly unloving, and without natural affection is everything that Paul says is going to happen in the end times. As the times grow closer and closer together, we need to make sure we understand these things. We need to understand that we have to be prepared for when they come into our lives. We have to be prepared when they try to come into our churches. We have to be prepared. Listen, just because the Bible tells us it's going to happen, it never says just let it. Let us understand that. It never says just roll over and let it just destroy the church or destroy your society. Never once. But we need to remember that as Christians, we have to understand what is it that we need to do. How do we need to approach these things that come into our lives? How do we need to approach when these types of attitudes and behaviors try to come into our church? Well, first and foremost, remember, we've just said it, the family is nothing like it was 50 years ago. We need to remember that. But Paul here, he actually does a little bit of prophesying. Okay? He actually does a little bit of looking into the future. In fact, one of the things that Paul says is very, very interesting. If you go back up to verse 2, he says there, Paul tells us that children will be disobedient to their parents. I know parents who've never had children disobedient before in your house, and that's not exactly what he is talking about here. What he is talking about here, that there will be those children that come in and disobedience to parents, it means this, that parents will no longer be able to persuade or hold sway over their children. And that their children will do whatever they want to, whenever they want to, for as long as they want to. I keep hearing over and over again these young teenagers getting shot. Why in the world is a teenager walking the street at 1 o'clock in the morning? It doesn't make any sense. They say, we've got to fix Indianapolis. Let's start with mom and dad and get a hold of your kids. You know what? Your kids are not to be your friends. They're your children. They're not going to like you at times. In fact, if your children don't tell you that they hate you, you probably messed up somewhere. You see, we need to understand that. We keep trying to fix everything in our culture, fix everything in Indianapolis. Everybody's getting shot. Everybody's getting killed. Guys, these are teenagers who need to be at home in bed sleeping at 1 o'clock in the morning. But nobody will say it. We got to blame somebody else for it. Mom and dad, get a hold of your parent kids. Get them in the home. You see, we need to remember that. But he's reminding us of this. So again, so what are you supposed to do? I can't control my kid. They can just go do whatever they want to. That's exactly what's happening in our culture. What did Paul say? Without what? Natural affection. This is exactly what Paul said this was always going to be. That they're going to be out there without natural affection, that are going to be running around doing these things. So what do we have to do here. First of all, this is not going to just carry over from kids. We're also going to see adults start having without natural affection in their life. Guys, when you put a sign up at a fire station that says this is a safe place because mom and dad don't want their kids anymore, that's without natural affection. That's what that means. I'm not putting down the fire department or the services for offering that opportunity. I'm talking about putting the parents saying, I don't love my child anymore. I don't have anything to do with my child anymore. They're not important to me anymore. And if a parent doesn't think their child, it affects their child, they're mistaken. You see, this is what he is talking about here. He wants us to understand something, both men and women. Guys, I watched a video the other day, a very short little video. I don't remember where it was. I think it was in a big city, but I don't remember where. And this young man was dancing on the street. Now, mind you, he should have been at home, but he wasn't. And he was dancing on the street, and this car pulls up to him, and literally this guy walked out and hit him across the back of the head and knocked him right down onto the concrete. Just a week or two ago, we had another person, a young teenager, early 20s, take a hit of an elderly woman doing the exact same thing. Guys, this is without natural affection for one another. You think the Bible prophesied this is going to take place? Yes. Remember, it doesn't say we're supposed to just sit back and say, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Nothing we can do about it. We'll just wring our hands and just let it go on. No, the Bible doesn't. In fact, the Bible forbids that. We need to truly remember that. But we can translate that phrase. In fact, if you want to write this down, without natural affection, write it down next to it, because it can be also translated this, without family affection. Without family affection. We got a big election coming up in just a few months, don't we? And all I keep hearing about is, boy, you know what, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Not one person said, I'm going to do what I can to strengthen the family. In fact, guys, depending on who you vote for, we're going to do just the opposite. And that's going to destroy us. That's without natural affection. This is what Paul is talking about here to Timothy. This is what he's saying to you. This is what he's saying to me. Notice what happens when you and I, what happens if we don't have this family affection for one another. It means we're going to have a lack of feelings for one another. We're going to have a lack of natural tenderness and love for one another. I keep hearing people say over and over again, hey, we got to love. We got to love, love, love. Listen, don't buy into the idea that you can love anything and anybody you want to, because that is not true. Oh, we can love one another, but not the way our world's trying to tell us to. You see, and Paul is reminding us, he's saying, you know what? Make sure, Christians, make sure, church, that you truly love. This whole idea of not having natural affection, it's coming. But if we let it walk through the door of the church, we are at fault. And we cannot let that happen in our lives. We need to remember that. How do we know this is taking place? Guys, because we see it each and every day across our country. When moms and dads reject their children. When we've got the debate going on, and really a debate, listen, there should never be certain debates that should never take place in the church, and one of them is abortion. It's murder, and it's outlawed by God. There's nothing to debate. Absolutely nothing to debate. But yet we see each and every single day, we see people, mothers and fathers, allowing it to take place for babies to be aborted by the thousands each and every day in our country. And listen, they're going to try even harder to push for your tax dollars and my tax dollars to go even further. Do you guys know that our tax dollars go around the world to create abortions around the world? You should not be okay with that. You see, we need to understand is that we are out there. We have dads completely abandoned in their families. This is unnatural. This is not how God intended for it to be. Christian, I would encourage you, love the people God has placed in your life. You know what? It's okay to embarrass your children every once in a while, because it means they know that you love them. You care about them. We need to remember that. And something else, I think of a couple of people in our church who do a phenomenal job with what I'm going to share with you right now. Make sure you take care of your parents even when they're older. The Bible never says you're supposed to stop loving your parents just because you get older. The Bible never tells us that we're supposed to put them off into a nursing home and forget that they were ever there. But yet if you go visit a nursing home, there's times they're going to say, I haven't seen my family in months or years. You see, we need to make sure that we don't abandon our families. Make sure that we don't let that happen. I saw the other day, actually this morning, it said that people are complaining that they need more money. They need more money and they need more money. Money's nice, isn't it? Let's go like this. Yes, it's nice. We all have to have it. If you don't say you have to have it, yes you do. You have to have it to pay your bill. You have to have it to live. Absolutely we do. But we don't have to have it where it comes to a point it becomes a God in our lives. And you look at our culture today, and you look at what's taking place today. Paul, he's reminding us. I want to back up for just a moment here, and I want to see something else that Paul wrote. Paul also said this. He said that they're unthankful. Do you have a bunch of unthankful people running around the world today? Like never before. Like never before. So unthankful. Does the Bible predict what's going to happen? Yes. You see, Paul is reminding this young pastor, this church, I want to remind all of us, these things are going to happen. But it starts with where you and I live in our lives, with teaching our kids, with teaching our grandkids, with teaching those who come into the door of the church. We need to make sure that we do so. There's so many people out there. It says there in verse 2 of 2 Timothy chapter 3, it says, men who will be lovers of themselves. Does it sound pretty familiar? Lovers of money. Well, that's all we talk about today. Got to have more and more and more. You have to pay me more unemployment than what I made in my real job. You have to. That's just the way it has to be. The people not understand is when you don't have money, you can't give money away. When people won't work, you can't do certain things. It's just the way it is. It's not unloving. It's just factual. And yet we see over and over again, boy, we love that money in America. Whatever you guys do, don't go to the gas stations or other places with change because you're not going to get any back. We haven't noticed that yet. You see, we need to understand is that the desires that we see in our culture today are desires that Paul is warning the church about coming. He's warning them and he's reminding them to make sure that we are ready. What do we have in our culture today? We have many people out there with their kids. We have many parents out there saying, oh, I don't have to worry about my kids. Somebody else can raise my child. You can throw them off on somebody else. They can be taken care of by them. God didn't intend for a man and a man to have children, or a woman and a woman to have children. God intended for a man and a woman to have children, to love them and to be there for them. And we need to understand that as a culture. We wonder, and we completely keep destroying the very fabric of who we are. And it needs to stop. In church, it starts with us. Christian, it starts with who we are. And we need to truly remember that. But I want to remind us, where does it start as we go through all of these things? I want you to see here. When we were living in Wyoming, I went to the library. And I'm sure they're here too. I just don't look in this section. And in the children's section, it had on there, I have 2 mommies and I have 2 daddies books that the kids could take home and the kids could do whatever they needed to, or take those home to read. And what we've done culturally is we have slowly numbed everybody to unbiblical behavior. And you know what? It's carried over into the church. And how do we stop it, church? We have to. We have to. You see, Paul is writing here to Timothy. He's saying, listen, there's going to be those people out there. They are going to be without natural affection. It's interesting. Carmen, many years ago, he said, when people would rather come out of the closet than clean the closet, that you know that the hand of God is ready to come upon us. If our country doesn't think that God can't judge us, then we are sadly mistaken in understanding who God is. You see, we need to remember here that God, we need to be thankful. We also should never be caught off guard by these things. How many of you guys are caught off guard by some of these things? I hope that you're not. You had a perfect storm, if you will. You had things that took place that were, by the way, that were out of every single one of us, our control. And they erupted. They erupted. It's never good to lock somebody down for 3 months. Never. That's exactly what we did. And then that stopped. Then another perfect storm hit, and all of a sudden they collided. And next thing you know, we've got the mess that we see as a culture. But it doesn't start with just those 2 things. It starts by putting God back where He belongs. People can sit there and deny that all that they want to. But I'll challenge anybody to go back in history and you study the times when people were the happiest and most prosperous is when God was in control of their lives and their country. And if we think as a nation we can just figure it out by spending more money, we are so mistaken. We are so mistaken. Instead, what are we trying to do? We're trying to do exactly what Paul said to Timothy. He said, without natural affection, not loving one another, caring for one another. It's interesting because I didn't raise my kids to look at somebody based upon their skin color. Hope you didn't raise your kids the same way, but yet the society will have us convinced that's exactly what I did, and that's offensive. It's wrong. That's not how I raised my children. And we need to understand that we have a society today that we are without natural affection by choice. But where are you at this morning? Where are you at? You know, we can sit there and say, oh, we got to be nice to people. I agree, you got to be nice to people. But listen, being nice to someone doesn't mean you always agree with them. It doesn't. It doesn't mean you can't be friends either just because you don't agree with them. See, that's also where our society is programmed. This lie that if you can't agree with one another, you can't be friends, you can't do anything together. That is a lie. But you see, we need to understand that God wants us to trust Him. So what are we going to have to do? Moms, dads, grandparents? One of the things that we have to make sure we understand is that our kids know the truth. Okay, that our kids know the truth. Our society does not tell us the truth. I know that's a shocker to all of you, but it does not tell us the truth. It tells us its viewpoint and its side of what they think the truth is. Remember this. You can write this down if you want to. There is no truth without Jesus Christ. There is no truth without Jesus Christ. And we need to quit pretending that there is. Let us never forget that. Let us never forget that. We need to teach our children that truly hating is wrong. And there's a difference between hating and disliking and disagreeing. See, Paul is talking about this now. This is what's happening without natural affection. And as Christians, we can stop it. As Christians, we can say, you know what? We're not going to put up with that in our church, in our lives, and in our society. You don't stop violence in our city by making another law or another ordinance or even putting more police officers on the street. Oh, it'll help. But you got to put God back on the street. History proves it over and over and over again. The Bible tells us if someone doesn't believe in God, that's foolish. So let us as a church say, you know what, we're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to put up with this anymore. So Mom and Dad, what do you have to do? What do I have to do? Grandparents, what is it maybe you have to do? Let your grandchildren, your children know that God's important to you. It's not always easy. Because believe it or not, there's even times I wake up on the wrong side of the bed. And there's times in which I'm going to go, those people deserve what they did. Their own fault. You ever say that? They deserve it. I didn't say it was the right attitude. I'm just being honest with you. Now we need to remember this. Children, moms, dads, make sure, teach your kids the values of the Scriptures. You might say, well, I messed that up already. Oh, no. You see, because my Bible says God is capable of doing anything. Maybe your kids don't live at home anymore. Maybe your kids aren't doing everything you hoped that they would do. Give them over to God. Because the Bible tells us we teach our children when they're young, when they're old, they'll never depart from it. There might be some bumps along the way, am I right? There'll be some problems along the way. Parents, if you know what I'm talking about, grandparents, you know what I'm talking about. And I don't know what it means when they're old, they'll come back, and I have no idea what that means, but it promises that they'll come back. As Christians, let us never forget that we need to love. We need to teach our children to respect, to honor, and to make sure they know the people around them, that they are important to them. No matter what their skin color is, no matter what their language they may or may not speak, whatever it might be. Because you see what we're doing in America today, guys, listen, this whole movement we're seeing across America, it is not unifying, it is dividing. It is dividing. And the only one who can bring this country back together and God's people back together is God Himself. And it's time that we quit pretending that something else is going to do that, but it is not. We might feel good for a while. had good production for a while, had good things happen for a while. But the reality is that without God, there's nothing. And the song Brother Donnie was saying before, without Him, we can do nothing. Without Him. What about your life? What about your life? Yeah, you know what? Kids are going to rebel. Adults, we're going to rebel. Kids are not always going to do what they're supposed to. Hey kids, your mom and dad don't either. You see, we're all in the same boat together. We just at different stages of our lives. And the reality is that Paul is reminding us this stuff's coming. But guys, you know what? That doesn't mean we have to let it happen and agree with it. There's nothing I can do about it. There's times in which I'm sure we've probably said that in our lives about various things. But Paul wants us to remember, you know what? It's going to happen. It's difficult. Being a parent is difficult. Being a Christian is difficult. Just living life is difficult. But I will encourage every one of you here, anybody who might be listening, anybody that will say, you know what? I'm going to give it over to God. Let Him change me. And I want you to know something else. I want you to do this for me. I want you to throw worry out of your vocabulary. Okay? I didn't say thinking about something. I didn't say planning for something. But if you're constantly worrying about something, it will hold you exactly where you're at this morning. It will never allow you to move forward. So let God have it. Let Him have it so that He can work through you to do things you thought you could never do. Where are you at this morning? Our society is right where Paul just wrote, about natural affection. But that doesn't mean we have to sit back and say, nothing I can do about it. See, because I believe when we have our cookout, we have our appreciation for our police officers and first responders coming up on Thursday, I believe it's a great opportunity to be able to show people the love of Christ. Now, aren't going to stick our head in somebody's police car and do and preach at them and throw the gospel, throw the Bible at them. But listen, they're going to know the love of God is real. They're going to have the opportunity to have information given to them about who God is. Because you see, people already know who God's out there. They just want to see how He's going to make a difference in their life. And people who deny that there's a God is simply just fooling themselves. And He wants us to be true to Him. Will you trust Him this morning? Brother Donnie, would you come? I'm just going to stay right here, Brother Donnie, okay?
Would you stand with us, please, as we sing? He knows my feet. Right where you're sitting, you can come to pray, but will you come to Him? He knows my name. He knows my every thought. Will you trust Him right now? He sees each tear that falls and hears me when I call. I have a Father. Will you trust that Father right now? Right where you're sitting, you can pray. Do you know Him this morning? The Bible tells us very simply, all you have to do is call on His name and say this. He knows your name. He knows my every thought. He sees each tear that falls and hears me when I call. I just want to remind everybody that we serve a God who's bigger than any struggle you have in your life. We serve a God who's bigger than any problem that our society faces. Let us never forget that.
And I hope you know him this morning. Trust him this morning. He's the only one that's going to change your life. Father God, I thank you for today, for your word, for your love, and for your life. Lord God, as we leave here in just a few moments, I pray, Father God, that we will make sure, Lord, that we're reminded of your love. And there are people around us, Lord, even though this world is crazy. But Lord, you know what? We've been living in times since the day Jesus left. I pray, Father God, right now that you help us to just remember that. And as your church, it will remain faithful to you no matter what. Even when it's not popular, even when it's not, even when it's hard to do. I ask, Father God, that we'll use that. I thank you, Lord, ahead of time for what you will do. Bring us back here safely this evening as we worship you. And I ask these things in your name. Amen.